Welcome to the studio, Karen and Sheila.
Karen Magic Fingaz Smith is a percussionist, poet, playwright, producer, and director. For more than 10 years, Karen Smith has been taking her drums on the road with her movement, Have Drums Will Travel Immediately. Karen has performed both nationally and internationally, and as Karen has climbed higher and higher in her achievements, not only does she remember those who have helped her along the way, she also reaches back to uplift others. Performing with Karen is drummer extraordinaire, Brother Mike. Thank you for joining me in the studio.
Thank you.
Brother Mike, Karen.
So glad to be here. Thank you,
Thank
Sheila.
you.
So, Karen, you originally are from New York,
Brooklyn, New York, yes.
okay, and transplanted to Philly.
Yes.
You have built quite a supportive community. How exactly did you do that?
I think it's just really coming here with a lot of interest in the arts and experience and kind of finding out where do I put that. So I think it started with theater, the Freedom Theater to Painted Bride to some of the more local theaters, and then I scribe at the time, and just various people I would meet and have conversations with, and slowly let them know what I do. But I just needed to observe. It was more observing at first, and then kind of came with, what I had to offer. Just making sure, I was going down the right avenues first.
Okay. And then when you say going down the right avenues and in terms of discerning your support community, how are you able to say, okay, this person, I want to pull them closer, that one can stay over there?
That's trial and error in life. I can't say I didn't have plenty of that. But I feel that, overall, you can't change that either. That's how the checks and balances, where you need to be, where you don't need to be, who you need to be there with or not, You gotta let the experience happen and learn from that. So, yeah, I don't think you can avoid that. That's just life, per se.
So here's another question. I know that when we talked, before this evening, you said that your sister passed the baton to
Yes.
you. What did you mean by that? Which sister are we talking about, and what baton was passed to you?
Yeah, my sister Barbara, who's like 15 years older than I, she passed away, transitioned in 2007, and in my early years, she was the one taking me out to see live theater, dance, all kind of cultural stuff, films, independent films, and things like that. And she worked behind the scenes and did film work and photography. And so my interest started from just watching her and realizing, that she was passing the baton to me because she exposed me to so much. That's where a lot of my training came from, kind of like being there on different sets and things like that, seeing it live, like here at PhillyCAM, seeing things being created on the grassroots level and beyond. So yeah, it was kind of like that.
Okay. And so it sounds like your sister was in was a creative like you.
Yeah, she was definitely a creative person.
Okay, so the baton she passed was.
Yep, it was taking that baton, but I had to run with it. I couldn't just hold it and stand there and figure out what I'm supposed to do with it. It's like, nope, you got to go with it, So with each day, those trials and errors, that's how I learned to where to go. And eventually it brought me here to Philadelphia.
Okay. So you talk about how you had to take the baton and run with it.
Run with it, yeah.
So in terms of running with that baton, what was that road, what did that road look like? Was it like, did you jump right into being a full-time performing artist? Did you work with a 9-to-5 job with benefits and a paycheck? like what did that look like?
I did all that. I did jump right into it to jump right back out and get a so-called real job. And then when that wasn't working out and I wasn't happy, then erase the so-called real job and jump back into doing the arts in some shape or form until I found that balance, which was going to work. Because the last time I jumped into a so-called 9-to-5 secure job or whatever that had nothing to do with the arts, I realized that, and that wasn't really that long ago, that this is not working. This is not making me happy inside. And that's the most important thing, follow your passion. Because yeah, you can have a job, you know, I'm not knocking people who do have so-called regular jobs, whatever that may be mean to you. But that didn't work for me. I'm an artist, and it just, you know, I needed to be true to that. You know, life is too short. So it really, I had to find what worked. And once I found it, you know, or it found me, maybe we met together, you know, we were on the same page this time, it was on. You know.
Okay.
I really could hold on that baton, and I can also now pass it to somebody else, which I think I have. And I think of my nephew here too.
Okay. Question. When you say that you did the full-time job and then
I did all that,
you
yeah.
did all that, and now you're a full-time.
Full-time independent.
Okay. How so many people try to do what you did, which is go from working full-time to being a full-time creative. How did you do that? How did you make that jump? Because I believe I read a quote something about that you said that around 2018, 2019, you realized you didn't have to look for gigs anymore.
Right.
How did that happen?
Sonia Sanchez said to me, she said, visibility, then revenue. And so at that time, I thought I was doing all the visibility. I was out there, I was hustling, et cetera, and it just wasn't working. I wasn't bringing enough home. You know, I was getting ready to be evicted from my apartment, true story. And I'm like, well, what is she talking about? Because this was making me mad, you know. I mean, I'm very visible. But the visibility is up here. You got to see it, you know, and then they will see it. But the visibility, really, you got to see it. You really got to see it, your art, whatever that is. And you have to be true to that and believe it. It's faith, you know. So faith without works is dead. So I'm saying that that's what I had to do. I had to really see it and believe it. And then it started shifting. It really did. It started shifting. I really believed in what I was doing, you know. And I said, all I have to do is continue to be resourceful. I don't need a so-called 9 to 5, but I need to continue to be resourceful. But make sure it's something to do with the arts, because that's the only thing that's going to make me happy. And not necessarily administratively, but just something to do with the arts. So, you know, and that's what I did. And that's when, slowly but surely, you know, juggling all these different things, I could take some of those balls down and you know, focus more on, you know, my drum, and then eventually, you know, I'm a playwright, so I can focus on that now. I'm a director. You know, all the things started coming in place. So the shift started happening somewhere by 2018, 2019, where, you know, I wasn't looking for gigs anymore. They were calling me. To this day, knock on wood, they still calling me for different things. I don't, you know, I do this much networking and a lot of referrals.
Okay, I love it.
And I pass them on to him sometimes too. You know, he gets it as well.
One more question
Yeah.
before we run out of time. One of the things that you shared with me that really piqued my interest is that you play the drums as people are transitioning from this life.
Yes.
And I wanted to hear more about that. How did you get into that? What is that like?
My cousin, who also a professional drummer, he said the drum is very spiritual. The African drum more than anything else. He said, and so it led me. I didn't know I was going to be doing that. Because I really started with even my sister, bringing the drum to the hospital where she was and playing, you know. And she started tapping her foot because she was, you know, heavily medicated, but she was tapping her foot. And I realized, oh, she can really hear this, you know. I felt like, you know, another opportunity came much later on, made me realize I should continue that. But her, I still see her too, to this day, tapping her foot. I knew that this is more than just me going to clubs or wherever making money. There was another connection that needed to happen too. And so I do a lot of that with hospice care, people dealing with dementia, Parkinson's, whatever. You know, the drum speaks, and it speaks very loud.
Okay. And then I know both of you work with children.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we talk a little bit about that? And I know that Brother Mike loves working with
I
children.
love the kids.
He loves the kids.
So what exactly do you like? Do you go into schools? Do you go to daycare centers? Like, what do you do?
The scope is as big as there are children that exist in the world. Whether I'm going to schools or rec centers or even like police programs. Like I'm creating the space now while they're young,
Yeah.
or they have a voice, or they can be heard, and connecting them to something deeper so they can feel identity beyond just the music. and then we just have fun.
Yeah.
You can be with an
It really
adult
is.
and have fun. You can play, you can express yourself. It's okay. And giving sometimes the teachers and staff like principles and tools on how to engage with tough emotional regulation with neurodivergence. You know, this is also a tool to connect with all types of neurodivergence.
I love it. And it sounds like you create a space for people and children to feel safe
Yes.
and express themselves. It doesn't have to be perfect and regimented. So I love that. Thank you both so much for joining me this evening.
for
Before
having
you
us.
close out, I just want to thank you all so much for joining in with this episode. You can also watch our show on YouTube and Roku, and follow us at PhillyCAM on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you next time, and we're going to close out with Brother Mike and Magic Fingers Karen
You
Smith.
ready, Auntie?
Make something happen. Whoa.